Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Visual Arts Luncheon Program. Thank you for joining us today. My name is John Christensen, and I am fortunate to serve as the president of the Board of Directors for the Orange County Forum. Today's program features a group of incredible visionaries from the Orange County arts community, and we cannot wait to hear from them. But first, you get a little me. I want to start off by giving a big thank you to our event sponsors and partners that helped put today's program together. First off, UCI and UCI Health, our title sponsors of 3 years in a row. Cal State Fullerton is today's presenting sponsor. And of course, Bowers Museum, allowing us to host here at this beautiful venue. Would all three entities please rise and let's appropriately acknowledge you. Come on, here we go, come on. UCI, come on. Thank you, Kate. Now, the Orange County Forum is incredibly fortunate to have a cadre of annual sponsors that provide generous support and allow us to continue bringing these meaningful conversations to Orange County. So let's give a big round of applause to our ongoing sponsors. Hey. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, or would like to make a small donation today, you can scan the QR code that's located at the center of your table. When you scan the code or type in the URL address, it'll take you to our donations page where you can select from one of the options there. Thank you for joining with us to keep these conversations going. And then, of course, I'm fortunate to be part of a very active and engaged and talented board of directors. They make up for me, many of whom are with us today. Would all of our current Orange County Forum Board members please take a moment, stand, and be recognized. All right. I believe we have a few elected officials here in the audience. Let's get a big round of applause for them and thank them for their time, taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us. And of course, most importantly, we're here together, right? And it's nice to be in a room together and doing in-person events again. So we're so pleased that you all could join us. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. You may have noticed on your tables, there are note cards. They are there. So if you have a question to pose to our panel, please use the note card, write out whatever you'd like to ask. Our staff will come by and collect it during the program for the Q&A portion at the end of the presentation. All right, that's enough of me. Let's get to the good stuff. I am very honored to now introduce our distinguished moderator for today's program. Sara Guerrero is a celebrated theater artist, educator, and advocate. She's the founding artistic director of Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble, the only Latina theater company in Orange County. Sara and the Ensemble are artists in residence at Cal State Fullerton's Grand Central Arts Center in downtown Santa Ana, the university-run complex with galleries, a theater, and they showcase visual arts, dance, drama, and music. So please, let's give a rousing Orange County Forum welcome to Sara Guerrero.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate
Great having you here.
Thank you again. Thank you again for all being here today. So as John was talking about, there's different roles that I serve, and as an artist, as with every endeavor, I always ask myself, what is my connection? Generally, it's why me, why now? But for this endeavor, I was asking myself, what is the connection? What is the thread? As I introduce these wonderful panelists. And I encourage you, I will just touch on some of the amazing work that they do, but please read their bios, learn more about their organizations. There's links available, and if you haven't already, please do so. So I'm gonna go in a chronological order because I was thinking about the thread, my connection. And some of the panelists I've more recently met, and some of the panelists I've known since I was a child. So I'm just going to kind of go through it chronologically. And the first person that I'm going to start off with is Genevieve Barrios Southgate. Genevieve is the Director of Community Programs at Bowers Museum, where she oversees and produces monthly family festivals, and Anna's Treasures, an arts enrichment program for the seniors. How I've known Genevieve was because of an organization that she was a part of. She set an example along with my mother, who was also a volunteer for MANA of Orange County. There, I witnessed a group of Latina, Mexican American, first all the way to sixth-generation women coming together to make changes, to raise their voices. And it was just an array of women. And as I had met her niece, you know, you were voluntold. You weren't volunteered, you were voluntold. As a child, sometimes you're kind of forced to sit around and watch your parents do stuff. But because of the work that they did, it inspired me. You know, fortunate I had family that was always about being involved with the community, giving, and this was just an early example of watching these amazing women who also eventually put it on this amazing fashion show with designers like Oscar de la Renta and Carolina Herrera and Paloma Picasso. Like, they were hanging out and talking to these artists, and so and these were just these women who came together here in Santana. So that was really cool to watch. And then I love their fashion sense as well. And then with that, as I've grown into the work that I do, the calling that is theater, I call it a calling because it feels like that. And you meet some really amazing people in the work that you do. And that next person is Dr. Tiffany Anna López, who is the Dean of UC Irvine's Claire Trevor School of the Arts, is devoted to building connections with the community by creating clear professional pathways for both student and faculty research. I don't know, there's just so much to say about Tiffany. I've had the great fortune of working with her, directing, as being a director for a main stage production, as my dramaturg. She served on our board, and then being invited to the universities that she has also led programming at UCR and now at UCI, and to share in the work that we do. And then also, we founded the Latino Theater Alliance of the Greater Los Angeles as well. And not just for the Latino community, Latinx, Latine, but just on a national level, the work that Tiffany has done to create more equality, diversity, but also inclusion, like seeing how you incorporate humanities into the arts. That they don't stand alone. They really do live together and breathe together, and sometimes they are one. So just that. And then next is Dr. Natalie J. Graham. So Natalie, we met at the 1888 Center. I think I was co-hosting, or she was doing a reading. This has been some time, this is pre-pandemic. But I had the great fortune of hearing her share her work from being with the failed body. So Natalie is also the director of the Institute of Black Intellectual Innovation at Cal State Fullerton, and was also appointed our Poet Laureate of Orange County back in 2021. And her as a poet it's been quoted as a poet acutely sensitive to the ways of the body, its betrayals, its pleasures, and its unknowable selves. I highly recommend that you purchase her book, Being with the Failed Body, and read it. As a person maturing in my own life, I have come to appreciate poetry and this particular body of work. And at some point, we're going to have lunch, and we're going to figure out how we're going to work together as well. And then, of course, our final panelist, Heidi Zuckerman, who is the CEO and the director of the Orange County Museum of Art. And if you don't know this, I think this is just incredible, especially coming out of the pandemic and opening spaces and having access to spaces. At OCBA, they welcomed nearly 10 times the visitors to the museum in the first 7 months of operations than previous annual attendance, and raised more than $40 million since February of 2021. That is amazing. And it is proof of how much we need spaces and access and the ability to see the work, but also see ourselves in the work. And one of the really wonderful things that that I've got to also learn about with Heidi is, as a board member for Orange County Arts Council, we all had this special invitation. And Heidi opened up the space for us. And one of the things that I really took away was her curation of 13 women. And I was so moved by that. Like, one of the threads that I haven't put on the, named, directly, but the idea of seeing women and in our community, really creating spaces, transforming others through the work that they do. And so this is another example of women, these 13 women, who founded the Balboa Pavilion Gallery, which is the earliest iteration of the Orange County Museum of Art. And so this exhibit has been curated, and it's now in its third variation. So I highly recommend, if you haven't already seen it, please go. The museum, it's free attendance. You may have to pay for parking. Go to Phil's Coffee and get some coffee, or have a wonderful cocktail at their bar. But anyway, so these are some amazing persons that just happen to be women that are doing stuff in our community that I'm just so excited about. And I get the great privilege of inviting them here to also continue the conversation. So please, Genevieve, Heidi, Natalie, Tiffany, please join us here. And as they take their seats, I'm just going to, again, thank you all for being here. Art in its many forms has an extraordinary ability. So thinking about it, extraordinary abilities and ability, right? That art has a way to connect communities together. Right? It imparts a universal language that can speak to our shared human experiences, allowing us to bond over common feelings, exchanges, challenges, and aspirations. Even today, as we gather in this room, art is connecting us, and some food as well. So with that said, and I think I'm gonna open it up, but I think, Tiffany, I may be having you answer this question first, and then of course all of you, please, by all means. The question is, through your work, you've opened and created spaces where voices are heard and ideas are shared. Can you elaborate on the work you do in the community with our audience?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you very much to OC Forum for organizing this, to Sara as a moderator, and also the Bowers Museum for sharing such an incredible space. Very, very delighted to be here with my esteemed colleagues. The Claire Trevor School of the Arts is the UC's only named School of the Arts. I think that's important to share, and here we are in the extraordinary context of UC Irvine with its mission to move the needle on social mobility and also serve the community, as exemplified by UCI Health and its engagement with the community. And then we're in Orange County with its extraordinary rich arts landscape represented by all of the leaders here on this panel, as well as Arts OC, Latina Breath of Fire. I see Sara as like Orange County's arts mayor. With her work. So it's incredibly important for the university to be connected in the community. So this is my, I'm completing my first year as Dean of the Claire Trevor School of the Arts, and paramount to the work has been connecting with all of the arts leaders across Orange County, because we want that synergy so that we can lift up and put into the community our students who come to us not only as artists, but as future creative leaders in our region and also nationally and globally. So we work very hard to lift up our students to be the storytellers they want to be, and also to be able to tell the stories they need to be, and to our students come to us not only knowing that they want to be artists, but that they want to have impact in the world. And so that connectedness with the arts community in Orange County is vital, so that we can have opportunities such as arts internships. We're in the process of launching an arts Leaders Internship Program. And the vision is to have the students, when they come, see the great opportunities at the university, but the incredible opportunities here in Orange County. And the arts are more important now than ever before because behind every innovation, including in technology, there's a visionary, there's an artist to be part of that. So that connectedness with the arts community is incredibly vital and important.
Wonderful, thank you, Tiffany. Heidi, would you also like to share?
Sure.
Oh, is it
Is this
working?
on? Yes. No?
Let me see your mic. Let me see if I can fix it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so honored to be on a panel with all of you. And
I think it's working now.
okay, great. Thank you. Okay, great. So I am relatively new to Orange County. I've been here about 2.5 years, and I came to take this job. And what I have found since I've been here is a community that really celebrates innovation, that is really curious about the arts, that is committed to philanthropy. And one of the things that we found in the opening of the Orange County Museum of Art, after having been closed for a few years, we approached the process of opening by letting people know that it's their museum. And every opportunity that I had to be in the media, or whether it was social or print or whatnot, I kept inviting people. And I kept saying, like, this is your museum, this is your museum, this is your museum, this is your museum, you're welcome, come. And when we opened to the public on October 8th, 2022, we served over 10,000 people in the first 24 hours. And of course, we did do a 24-hour opening, so there was silent discos in the evening, and aura readings, and sound baths, and movies for insomniacs, and so it was very fun. And I really hoped that we would be filling a need, and sure enough, as you said, we used to have about 20,000 visitors in our old location, and 9 months in now, we've served over 212,000 people. So if there's anything that says that, you know, the people of Orange County want art and culture, I think those numbers really indicate that. So we're really grateful to be able to be of service and to be able to offer this as a free general admission. And what we're finding is that people are coming to the museum for dates. It's a great way to show that, you know, you're interesting and cultured, and, you know, and it's free, and there is a bar on the roof. So, you know, there are lots of different things that that encourage people to come. But we also have, for example, a program called BYOB, which is Bring Your Own Baby. And so, you know, I've had kids my whole career, and, you know, within those first few months, there's often the idea of being isolated and looking for new communities. So a big part of everything that we're doing is to combat what we're seeing, these huge increases in anxiety, depression, social isolation. So when you come to the museum, you cannot come without someone talking to you. And so that ability to be seen and to be heard is something that we're really trying to incorporate into what we do and to every person that comes to the museum.
Thank you, Heidi. Natalie?
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and for this invitation and all the folks who are here. When I think about, well, the first thing the question made me think about is how important it is to open up and also question our definition of community, right? A lot of times we think of community as folks who are out there, or folks who are kind of in need of service, and we don't think about work we do in the community as work we're doing among ourselves. And so I think part of what I love about Cal State Fullerton is that we are a center of inquiry. And I think I heard innovation twice already, so I think we're in the right place. Because also the humanities and social sciences are, like you said, deeply embedded with the arts. You cannot separate, you know, understanding of the arts from the work that we're doing as humanities scholars. And one of the ways that the Institute of Black Intellectual Innovation serves communities and also thinks very directly about arts and innovation and business is by making transparent some of the invisible histories of Orange County, thinking about the ways that we do have to grapple with the history of Black folks in Orange County. And we can be very specific about cultural representation and identity, and also in order to really get a deep sense of what it means to belong, what it means to be welcome, we have to be specific about the communities that we're inviting. And so I think that we're continually invested in that work of opening the definition of community, thinking about the definition of community, making space for communities who haven't had spaces in this county before, and also creating space on and off campus and facilitating that creation of space in order for folks to be able to develop their art and see themselves as artists. I think it's deeply important to the work that we do to recognize the value of art for every single person, not just as, you know, a participant viewer, but as a maker and creator. And so we began the Institute by thinking about the fact that you can't really have social change without creativity and imagination, and we can't create the world that we want to see without that sort of imaginative space. And so how do we invite folks to be imaginative and artistic and open and to belong, and really do that intentionally, and welcome all folks into that conversation. So that's a lot of the work we're trying to do in community generally.
Yes, thank you, Natalie. You've all just hit on so many things, and I think knowing Genevieve and the work that you've started here, I want to say 70s, 80s, here in Orange County, if not earlier. As a volunteer, right? I mean, I think what's really interesting is that it's always been here. It's just whether or not you are visible to it. And I would, Genevieve, if you could also share as well. But I can't help but think about the seeds that you've planted as well. Is it working?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Here at the Bowers Museum, we're very invested in the Orange County and Santa Ana communities. We've made a large effort to reach out to everyone, and we made a large effort to secure grants that allow us to do that. Our purpose here is to bring the beauty of different cultures and art from around the world to everyone to experience. It's very important today, especially, that people appreciate other cultures and appreciate all that these cultures, the beauty that these cultures bring to all of us, and how much, you know, it's part of our lives. We have gone out and secured grants from the Nicholas Endowment and other organizations that have enabled us to give tours and art classes to over 6,000 Title I public school students per year. And boy, that keeps us busy too. Our Ann's Treasures program, it's an arts engagement program for seniors, and they're presented either free or for a very nominal fee, and it's a program that helps seniors overcome loneliness. It helps them socialize. It helps them know that and realize that they do have artistic talent. For many of our seniors, we have helped them overcome depression and help them learn that they do have value in their talents. It's a very special program for us. So special that we do not presently have a sponsor for that program, but the Bowers Museum is so excited about the program and appreciates the program so much and loves to treat our seniors in a special way. It's called Ann's Treasures. Treasures is because we treasure our seniors. And the Board of Governors and the Bowers Museum, our administration sponsors this program because they believe in it and they wish for it to continue. We have over 200 seniors come a month for this program. And through let's see. Very important. Once a month, we present a free family festival. This is for all families, all residents in the area. We have people come from LA for our festivals. They feel that they are that special. Have you been to one of our festivals before? Yeah. The purpose of the festivals is to show the beauty and traditions of all cultures. Our festivals are so appreciated by all people. They present the performers, the art from such diverse cultures as St. Patrick's Day, Celebration of India, which is coming next in July, Dia de los Muertos, and a chocolate festival, which in which we celebrate the chocolate lands of the world. You know, chocolate first came from Latin America. So we have Latin American performers, and it's very big industry in Indonesia. So we have Indonesian representation. Our whole purpose is to just show the entire community how exciting these different cultures are. That's about it, yeah.
Thank you, Genevieve. Chocolate. Thank you. There is just so much that each of you covered, and then also seeing the commonalities, the threads that connect each of what you are doing in your own particular way. And knowing that the multiple generations, our families, our students, in a very specific area or outside, and there's just so much to cover, right? And of course, John had mentioned earlier about being present, that we're here, we get to gather. And for some, the pandemic is still very much a part of people's lives, and others, it feels so long ago. And there's still recovery, especially thinking of the arts. And, knowing, working in theater and seeing the changes that have happened, and then also knowing how that impacts other forms of theater and education and resources available to community. So what are some of the challenges you and your organizations have had to overcome, and where are you now compared to 2020? Like, if there was one thing that you could sort of hit upon, or maybe there's a few, but really just like one thing in particular that stands out to you. I'm going to leave that open to whoever would like to answer that. Tiffany?
I think one of the lessons the pandemic taught all of us is the importance of connectedness to community, right? We've talked about those issues. The pandemic just threw that, front and center. I would not be here if it wasn't for that kind of connectedness. I am the product of, I left home very early. I wouldn't be here if it hadn't been for public-based community arts programs. Mm-hmm. And then also, I'm a product of the vision of California's public education to have the Cal State, the UC, and the CSU working in concert to lift people up. And I see the community engagement we have through the arts as an important part of my story. So the pandemic really showed us that wasn't just something that happened 20, 30 years ago. That's something we have to be really intentional about. And that's what makes me very excited about all of us here at on this panel, because we represent that. I think the other thing the pandemic really put front and center was our structures and systems have to evolve, right? Because there's a gap between our intentions and our impact, and the pandemic just really threw that under a microscope microscope, and it also has our whole generation, current generation, and representing the future generation, calling us out to evolve our structures and systems. And for those of us running on the operations and management end of our organizations, really understanding how quickly we have to turn the tide, right, to do that work, and we're being called into accountability for that. So, you know, we hear language about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, justice, that our institutions that we are charged to involve, so that those things are central to the tenets of what we're doing. So those are the responsibilities that I feel as a leader, and the work that we're doing inside the school through UCI's Black Thriving Initiative, with our hiring that we're forwarding, and also our programs such as our community engagement internship programs, really creating opportunities for the students. And then the lesson of the pandemic was really looking not only at the uplift that the students need, but the actual support resources that we need to be thinking about in the work that we're forwarding. So, you know, faculty seeing on Zooms with their students that they need more art supplies. So we've been very lucky to have our partners and donors create grants and scholarships for the students in the art department to be able to bolster their personal supplies for their studios, because the faculty identified that, seeing what was in the background of the Zoom room, and then things like making sure in the pandemic that our students had ballet bars, pieces of Marley flooring, microphones, and that we advanced technologies such as Jack Trip to address latency with musicians wanting to practice so they could be in the same room. These are all incredible innovations, but also really reminding us that our structures and our systems and our support networks and our community engagement, we have to think about all of these things in concert with one another. So that's just to share a little bit about what the school has been thinking about.
Yes, thank you, Tiffany. So it's something that you said that just made me think about structures and institutes, educations, and providing resources for students. And I know, being a part of Cal State Fullerton during the pandemic, also being a witness to that, and also the Santa Ana Unified as well. Natalie, would you also continue?
Sure. I think that one of the things that we noticed was the need to create virtual spaces for healing and communication and conversation. And so, you know, even as, and we had a lot of folks coming to us asking for these sorts of spaces for communication. So we started Black Book Chat in the summer of 2020, where every month we would gather folks virtually and talk about these books that had been put on these, you know, anti-racist reading lists, and how can we create space for folks who might not have the time to read the books that had been recommended, but they wanted to know, they wanted to be part of the conversation, they wanted to be part of this movement and developing just a consciousness around these ideas. We've been doing that every month since 2020. We've been providing that space for folks virtually. The other thing that I think that we really thought about was physical space. It was time for us to reflect on the spaces on campus, what our campus looked like. As a Hispanic serving institution, do you walk on campus and recognize that in the spaces that we are in? And so we thought a lot about visual arts. You know, we're building a new visual arts performing arts center. We also are creating a new space for, right now, like in the works, we're creating a new space for IBII to have on campus, where people can come into a physical space and also see themselves reflected in the ways that we are, you know, designing and in the architecture of the space. So it's not just an intellectual concept where we know the ideas are there, but also you can see yourself reflected in the images. And I think another thing that came out of 2020 as well, among this fervor to learn about, you know, cultural difference and learn about structural racism, we also recognize that in the years since 2020, there's been a tapering off. So part of what was really important for us in IBII, even when the beginning when we started, was we wanted to create a space that wasn't responsive to, or just like, you know, performing a response to whatever sort of crisis was in the news cycle. And so we wanted to be proactive instead of reactive to the society around us. And so we did a lot of things in 2020 and 2021 that were experimental and more pilot modes and more developmental. And now we're in a space where we can have more structure and have more intention about the things that are ongoing. But we did from the beginning want to make sure whatever we started, we would continue. And so we've been able to do that. And so I think really that intellectual space, that virtual space is really transitioning into an in-person and in spaces where people are able to continue these dialogues and conversations.
Yes, definitely. Speaking of spaces, Heidi, would you also like to share?
Yeah, so listening to my fellow panelists, I had a couple of different thoughts that came up. One, I really love this quote, which is, "Don't fix the present, plan the future." And oftentimes we can be myopic in what's happening. And I think the long-range plan of, what the goals and the commitments are to our communities is really important. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the pandemic, for me, seemed like a long time ago. And as I was listening, because we have a different relationship to time now, right? It was either like 2 years ago or like 25, or it was yesterday. So during the pandemic, one of the things that I noticed, everyone's at home, you could only make, so many tie-dyed shirts or candles or baking projects, and people started to go online and go onto museum websites to look at art, mm-hmm. and I started to hear from colleagues and friends that they really didn't know what to do. They didn't really know how to look at art, and so I wrote these 5 suggested ways of looking at art, and we decided to post it right at the front of the Orange County Museum of Art. I didn't even work here at the time, but it asked people to just inhale and then exhale and just feel yourself present in the space, and then ask yourself some questions that everyone knows the answer to, including, what am I responding to? Does it remind me of something? How would I describe it to someone that I love? And the last question is, do I care? And people always kind of laugh when they see that one, but the idea of asking our visitors if they care about what they're seeing is really important, because it gets to this essence of the fact that, not only does art matter, but you matter. Everyone matters. And what we're trying to do at the museum is to create what we're referring to sort of as like an art sanctuary. So there's like a shoulder lowering effect when you come in. So all of our visitor engagement guides are wearing oatmeal. All of our security staff, they're wearing sky blue. And some of these are changes based on what's happened in the last few years, and it means something different to see someone dressed all in black with an earpiece and a walkie-talkie, and so we want people to feel comfortable when they come into the space. We've created a scent for the museum, which is a mix of like lavender and the sea, and just this kind of nondescript idea of activating the different senses to make people feel relaxed and comfortable. And one of the things that I'm observing when I walk around the galleries is the diversity of our audience in terms of age, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of background. And I like to say, and in fact I said it on a call this morning, we don't care what people did or didn't do on Sunday. We don't care what who people did or didn't vote for, because we have free general admission. Socioeconomic status doesn't matter. It's an opportunity, one of the few places, I think, in contemporary space where people can interact with people that they might not otherwise in any other place. And that is an incredible platform to communicate about the values that we hope to share in a broad way, including this idea of how to define community and what it feels like to be included.
Thank you, Heidi. Something what you said about the senses, and it's so incredible to think about your spaces when you apply all senses. I think it's also a really great way for writers to also think about the way in which they tell stories and what story are we trying to tell, right? So Genevieve, I'm sure you got some challenges to share, right?
All I can say is when the news hit, we all just kind of looked at each other with wide eyes and, wow, we've got to really do some planning. So all the departments got together and we just went in there and we had to shut down physically. That was the most the thing that hurt us the most, because we were just all shut down physically, people coming in. So it challenged us to think of more creative ways and ideas that we have kept, which helped us. With the Ann's Treasures program, we put together home art kits that the participants could come and pick up and do at home. And we never realized how popular that would be with everyone, and how people would come to it and say, it's the only thing that kept me sane, looking forward to these art projects and doing them at home. And we also partnered with Mariners Church to supply seniors with food. For our festivals, we created special programs that were videotaped and they were presented on YouTube for families to enjoy in their homes. We got notification that people were watching them in different parts of the world, and they're still on YouTube if you want to see any of them now. And our docents did a wonderful job of recording tours of our exhibits for the general public and for school classrooms. And along with the classrooms watching the videos, we also created special art projects, kits that the teachers could come and pick up and do alongside with the video classroom lessons. And so we kept on going. We didn't stop. And we were very fortunate. Our board supported us, and very few people were let go. No one was let go. We one way or another, we even part-time, to help them keep on going. We did whatever we could to just keep everyone on staff. We're very proud of that. But we're very proud that we learned a lot from the pandemic, and we contributed a lot to the pandemic.
Okay. Thank you, Genevieve. It's just checking time. Oh, we're doing well on time. So I'm going to, because I want to make sure we have time to also open it up to, for those who may have a question for our wonderful panelists. So this question is, and we talked a lot about art and the challenges that you've each experienced in your organizations, and then also the innovation that you had also came to, in your conversations and your discoveries and the witnessing. A lot of work has been done in this time, and if there was something that, like, if you had to part with us today, is there something that you would like to leave with us? And maybe it's something about, it doesn't necessarily have to be something of inspiration, but it could be something that maybe a question that you want to give our audience today, or even just a thought that maybe you're ruminating on. So I don't know, again, I know we've been kind of going through a sequence, but I'd like to just open it up to who would like to go first. Because this may be something that you are thinking about, or something inspired, and you have to kind of process it. I know I'm a kind of a bit of a processor, so.
I can go.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about this notion of leadership and what it means to lead, and the responsibility of having a platform. And I think that some of the personal development work that I've been doing is around what my personal mission is, which is to connect people to art and artists to make their lives better, and what is the mission and purpose of our institution, and what do we want to stand for. And so we are standing for the belief that access to art is a basic human right and not a privilege. And so we use that as kind of a North Star to ask where we want to devote our resources of our staff and our financial expenditures as well. And so the question that I would ask of everyone who's here at this OC Forum is, what do you stand for? What is your personal mission statement? And how does that tie into how you spend your time every day? And I think it's food for thought.
Thank you, Heidi. Tiffany, or would you like to go, or Genevieve? Okay, Genevieve?
Okay, there it is. Okay. I'm going to be much more practical and to the point. I see everybody smiling. What's she going to say? Okay. Actually, I want you to go home with the knowledge that the Bowers and the arts help create understanding of the world around us and how we fulfill our mission of enriching lives through the world's finest arts and cultures. How many of you have been to the Bowers before? Wonderful. Those of you who have not, shame on you. This is one of the finest cultural museums in the United States. This exhibit right over here, Spirits and Headhunters, it is the finest collection of Micronesia, Borneo, all the different cultures in those areas in the United States. So we have a treasure here, and I hope if you haven't been here, or if you haven't been here in a while, please come back and visit us. It's a beautiful museum. And we're down a little because we're in between exhibits, but we have a new exhibit opening next week from Saturday, and it is called, it's Swahili, so I have to, Ubukle. And it's the beadwork of the women in South Africa. It's going to be a beautiful exhibit. Now, the one thing that I hope I have inspired you is to consider funding some of our projects and to help us continue to reach out to our community, educate our community, and really, you know, this is really an educational and fun institution, and we want everyone to enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Genevieve. Natalie?
I think one thing I would say is, if you haven't heard of IBII before today, to follow us on IG. I think part of what, if you follow at IBII CSUF, you'll find us there, because I really believe that art in all its forms is a vehicle for connection and communication and community in a real, meaningful, rich way. And so I hope that we will be able to continue to be in conversation with each other, that we'll be able to continue to develop this initial moment together. And so we'll remember all of the ways that we have to intentionally kind of go after creation and creativity and developing a county that continues to be full of art and where everyone really is welcome and represented.
Thank you, Natalie. Tiffany?
As a dean of the Claire Trevor School of Arts, it's very important to me that the community connects with us and we connect with the community. So I would be remiss if I didn't invite you to look at what we do. We have over 260 events, performances, and other exhibitions that we do throughout the year. But I think it's also been very much on my mind talking with our students and young people in the community that you can't be it if you can't see it. If you don't understand the broader landscape of what is possible and the role that you can play in your community, but also really as a creative, as a leader, as a citizen, if you don't understand the landscape of the possible, it's really hard to imagine how you can be part of that table of our world. So it's incredibly important to me that we are thinking about how all of us participate in broadening that table and making things visible for the young people in our community to see what's possible and hear how there's a space at that table for their vision and voice, and that we're actively as stewards, as leaders, but also as citizens carving spaces. And then I think what I would want people to think about is echoing what my colleagues have shared about how are we being intentional with what we're doing right? In our communities, in our neighborhoods, but importantly, in the realms in which we work and live in, and the institutions, our arts institutions, but also our other civic institutions. How are we being intentional and also very design-minded towards what we're trying to build together and individually?
Thank you, Tiffany. I hope that if you didn't maybe make a note of some of these questions, I think intentionality is how, as an artist, is something I definitely continue to, utilize. And then understanding your mission, right? It always seems to bring you back to what it is that you want to do and how you proceed, right? Sometimes as I work with my students, they sort of lose track of what is needed, and we remind ourselves as what was our purpose, what was our intention as we come together, and how do we move forward and what needs to be done next? Problem solving as well, but also looking at the places that hold curiosity. Maybe it's your maybe it's a neighboring community, maybe it's the very space that you occupy that you haven't quite explored yet. Maybe it's somebody in your family who, that you want to engage with, or maybe it's people or a community that you are not familiar with, right? I think, for me, art making is always driven by curiosity, and then finding my intention, and then bringing it back to my purpose. But now we're going to shift into your questions. We got another one. So we've got, let's see. So I don't know if all of you are going to be able to answer these. So what I think we'll do is I will pitch the question. And then I think if there's one person who can answer that, great. And if there is maybe a part B to it, that's fantastic. But we're going to do our best to get to these 4 questions, and I think we can. This one I think I kind of resonates with me because I was listening to NPR this morning. In light of today's historic Supreme Court decision and the dual forces of adversity and the innovation, what does OC still need to be a leader for the future? Anybody want to tackle that? Natalie.
In light of today, the one thing I think about is if we just consider representation of all folks as necessary to the development and the deepening and enriching the work that we do, I would love for that to be the thing that we consider. I think even looking around the room, it's very easy to imagine a space where folks would not be invited or welcomed or feel like they belong in that space. So I think really just being conscious. Part of it is just being conscious and saying, well, if we live in a county that doesn't necessarily represent a particular population very well, or we understand that certain folks might need support or representation more than others, I would say we can be intentional about that, and we can be articulate and say that aloud instead of kind of sort of worrying over it. I think it's easy to look at multiple things that happen, whatever political spectrum you're on, and sort of be hand-wringing and being moved to being upset about it. But we can all take action and say, okay, well, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for my community? What does that mean for my table? What does that mean for my office? And the work that we're doing, and being intentional about reaching out to maybe a community that you're not a part of, or that is not represented in the work you do. I think that we can always do that we can always make that sort of conscious evaluation and assessment of our work and reach out to a broader audience.
Yes, thank you. Just to give you context in case you weren't aware, that the Supreme Court dropped oh my God, why is my brain having a brain fart right now? Affirmative action from private colleges. So that has been dropped. Please, if you're curious, I would highly recommend, you can find it online to learn more. Thank you so much, Natalie. I would like to, did you want to answer the next question, or do you want to piggyback on that? Okay, go ahead.
I think that makes our mission even more important, to educate people in the histories, the traditions, and the beauties of different cultures, and how we are all part of the human family, and that it's very important that we try to work together and try to spread the good word. So that's what we try to do here at the Bowers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, these two are kind of similar. So this is a two-part. I'm going to give you a choice. You either can share a successful example or how you successfully celebrate. Okay, so it's either, can you share a specific, which is basically the example, right? Celebrate diversity while at the same time ensuring inclusivity and belonging, a sense of belonging, or bringing together diverse communities together. And again, diversity can be a very large spectrum. You know, I think we could talk about it culturally, classism. We can also talk about geographically, also age. I mean, diversity can also really cover a large spectrum. So would any of you like to answer this question?
I could share about one of the things that we're doing to advance diversity within the school, and it's happening very organically through students, student-led projects. We have 4 affinity theaters that are student-led within the school. There's the Brown Bag Theater Company that Sara has been a mentor and a director for their projects numerous times for, the Brick Theater, the Black Door, and Theater Walks. And those are all student-led companies within the school where they're making work that comes out of their cultural specificities of their communities, but they're also working with one another across the school so that the students in the School of the Arts have experience lifting up the work of different people. So you have the specificity of a cultural project, but you also have a diversity of how that work is being represented. And then there's also the connectedness through our community partnerships, like with Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble, for the students to bring in professionals in the field as guest artists to be mentors, but also people who are creatively established, serving as mentors and helping them lift up the work. That's an example of something that's in the school that's very much about moving forward for the next generation, but also embedded in the school and in the community, and how the diversity is being approached in a specific, in its specificity as well as broadly. And I would say around just looking at question 1 about affirmative action and the decisions that were made, that was a program that originally was built to have us be intentional in the work that we were doing. I think it's a call for us to bolster how we're thinking about being intentional, and programs like the one I just shared with you from the students, that's an illustration about how they're working to be very intentional and design-minded to have the impact of the work that original programming under the rubric of affirmative action, that was the intention of the work. So I don't think the intention of the work is going away, but I just wanted to add my thoughts to that.
Thank you. Heidi.
I like what someone said earlier about how if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so I would speak to our exhibition program and the artists who are on view, and the idea that our public can come and see work that's made by people who look like them. And so a very specific example I would give is a work by an artist named Narcisco Martinez, who was included in the California Biennial. It was called Pacific Gold. We're super fortunate that it came into our collection. The exhibition was titled based on that particular work, and within the first 24 hours of the work being on view, there was a really moving video that was on TikTok of someone who said, I've never seen myself in a museum before. This is my community. Here we are. And that's the essence of the artist practice. He comes from a legacy of farm workers, worked in the fields himself, and he honors the people who he's friends with, who he's related to, the often invisible people who give us the food, access to the food that we have. And so there's a grace and an elegance and an authenticity to the storytelling. And so it's not didactic in any way, it's just there, and it's just present, and it creates an opportunity for that idea of being seen and heard and then hopefully loved.
Yes, I was also going to say, I sent my designers from UCI who came to see the work that helped. It was part of the inspiration that we did one of the final plays in their season. So it was exciting to see it there and to send students to, hey, please go see this work. This is really about the work that we are doing. And then...
Can I just do a quick plug?
Yes.
So I got him to, so I have a podcast, it's called About Art, it's on Spotify and Apple, and I got him to come on my podcast, and he was so nervous, and it is so amazing. So it will be out a week from Tuesday, and the way that he tells his story, and again, like the grace and integrity, I just encourage everyone to listen.
His work was also just at MULA too, just incredible. Again, go to their websites. You will learn more about Heidi's podcasts and each of these individuals. And Genevieve,
Yes.
what would you like to also share? Because I think you're going to be our closing thoughts.
No, very short and sweet, okay? Okay. So through our programs, through our exhibits, all of our festivals, everything, I just want to say this: diversity is our middle name.
Thank you. This question did not get to be asked, but I'm going to leave this with you as panelists, and you can, in your floating conversations as you sit, maybe think about it. Maybe all of us can kind of think about this as well. And then I've got to do some closing remarks and some thank yous. The California Proposition 28 Arts and Music Education Funding has an annual $1 billion so far, and not nearly enough budget. We all know that. How will this mandate for public schools to reinstitute arts and music programs affect their community programs and missions? Ooh, whoever asked this question, come sit with me. But more, so again, let me just thank our guest speakers. Thank you so much. Let's give them, please, a round of applause. We are at the end of our program, and I'd like to thank our sponsors, UC Irvine Health, and our event sponsor, Cal State Fullerton, for making this event possible, for Bowers Museum for hosting this as well, and equally important, thank you all for investing time to take part in these important conversations that are shaping and influencing our Orange County, and really a beautiful place to live, work, and connect. Thank you for coming, and we hope you attend OC Forum's next event at Angel Stadium in August. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and thank you.